we got permission to record, so we're good to go. And you met some of the guys here in the last half hour, and we certainly appreciate you coming here. And we'll go ahead and.
Oh, all right. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate the opportunity to share something about my system and see if I can share a screen here. You guys got that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So Robert W5IUA, and I'm in Springfield, Missouri, and like to talk to you a little bit about hams.live. It's a system to help manage SDRs. I hope you can hear me now. I'd like to talk about hams.live, a system to manage SDRs, software-defined radios. So what are software-defined radios if you don't know? They are radios out there on the public internet. They're typically accessible with web browsers, and there's over 500 public SDR sources out there, probably many more than that. And there are these are used by ham operators and shortwave listeners and others to listen to radio frequencies. And I really like to express my appreciation for those people that have took the time and money to deploy all these great resources out there on the internet for people to use. It's a great resource, and what I'm trying to do with my system is try to help folks use that in a more efficient way, and hopefully to their betterment. There are public lists of these SDRs to access where they are and whatnot, and the addresses. With your browser, you can access one or more of them. If you want to access more than one, you can open multiple browser tabs in your browser and have one on each tab. But the frequency and the mode and the other options, the waterfall level, would have to be changed for each source manually by the user. So when you, particularly if you get to a scenario where there's multiple. I didn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, the recording stopped for a minute, and we're back now. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Got a couple glitches here that I don't know why.
Okay. These viewing options can be changed, but manually by the user, and it gets complicated when you have multiple SDRs operational. So another way to do this is using my system. It looks like this, so that we have the same internet SDR sources, and they're still accessible through browsers, but we're using a couple of things. Number one, over here in the lower left is Obs Studio software running on your computer, and it has embedded browsers. So it performs the same function as far as communicating with the SDR as all the other browsers do, and it gets there the same way. But up in front of all that, we've got the hams.live system, which is a web server, and you log into the web server, and then what I have done is I have taken these public links and I've made system links for each of them, all under one common domain, hams.live. And that's got some advantages, because then you can more easily manage them and put the settings for them in a common fashion. So the user would be running the software here as a client, and they would already be logged into the system. And then when they chose an SDR, then the communications back to the SDR looks just exactly like it would if you were using one of these other browsers. The difference is that hams.live has embedded the options and the control information along with the link that goes back. So it makes it much easier to manage the various SDRs. So now I'm going to actually let you have a demonstration and let you take a look at what this looks like. So I'm going to share now OBS Studio. Hopefully you can see that. So this is OBS Studio software. I'll give you a quick tour. This large area in the on the left is called the canvas, and that's where things are displayed. I have a scene collection that I put together that has SDRs in it, and the various scenes for that scene collection are down here under scenes. Above that is a list of the sources for a given scene that's selected. In this case, we have the Northwest United States selected. So these SDRs in the dark color down here are some SDRs that are in the Northwest United States, and then I've got some other SDRs around the continent in the same scene just for convenience. So over here on the right, upper right, we have the audio mixer, and it shows when the SDRs are active, you will see an audio meter and a button for muting. So, and then down here on the lower right is the control panel. Once you log into hams.live, you get this login control panel. And this is where we're going to control the frequency, mode, and zoom level. So I'm looking at my radio right now, and I see that I'm on 20 meters, and there's something going on at 14,287. So I'm going to put that in kilohertz into this field, 14,287. I'm going to select upper sideband, and I'm going to pick a zoom level. I'm just going to put it on 10, and I'm going to click the adjust button.
Are you aware, Robert, that it's a very small screen? It's not full screen. I don't know if we're supposed to see full screen here.
I'm sharing a portrait monitor. Let me put it. I don't know if that's going to help you.
You may, at this point, you might have to reshare because it's still vertical.
Okay, let me put this on my other monitor. I think it'll work a little better. Stand by. I want you to be able to see this. It's better. Okay. How's that?
That's a lot better.
There we go.
Okay, sorry. So again, this is the control panel on the lower right, and what I've done is I've entered 14,287 in kilohertz, selected USB and a zoom level of 10, and I clicked the adjust button, and nothing happened. But what really happened behind the scenes is every link in my system for this scene got updated with that information. So you see a list of SDRs. I'm going to pick one here. I'm just going to pick one of these ones from Utah. There's a button over here that I click, and when I click this button, two things are going to happen. One is over on the canvas on the left, the SDR is going to launch, and two, up here in the audio mixer, you'll see an appearance of that SDR. So now the SDR is running just like it would in a browser, except it's an embedded browser in OBS here. It's muted right now. It looks like there's something going on over here at 14,300, as you can see. There is a QSO. No, I don't see anything at the frequency I selected. So I'm going to change the frequency to 14,300. So I just do that over here. And when I click adjust, the browser refreshes to 14,300. I'm going to unmute it now to see if we can hear something.
You have a good day. It's 6 WAS. All will be clear. 7-3.
So that signal is 20 over 9. You can see it appeared on the S meter and it's pretty bright. This is a demonstration of looking at one SDR, which you can do. You can just run this just like your browser and pick any SDR you want to listen to. I've got them all sorted by grid square in the system. So this particular one is at Delta November 31 Uniform Oscar. And they'll show up alphabetically in this list and also in the mixer. Now, the thing that people are really interested in, I think, though, is the scene that provides multiple SDRs. And I'm going to show that to you now. I'm going to turn off the Utah SDR here in this particular scene. And down here under scenes, I'm going to pick multiple. So now we're in a multiple scene. A couple of things I'll point out here. The screen is divided into color-coded regions, and the sources are color-coded to correspond to that. So an SDR, like I've got a group up here. This first group called America 1 has got 4 SDRs highlighted, one in California, one in Utah, one in Maryland, and I say 4, there should be a 4th one. I'll turn on Alberta. And when I turn on the group button up here, it'll all activate. But I also want to point out up here, I've got my rig audio brought into the audio mixer. I'm receiving on a Ten-Tech Orion, and so we were at 14,300. I'll make sure my radio's on that. Nobody's transmitting right now, of course, but if I unmute that, you'll be able to hear my rig audio. So now I'm going to launch this group, and 4 SDRs will come up now. And you see that they all appear on the canvas and then also in the mixer. So we're looking at, again, San Francisco, Utah, Alberta, and Westminster, Maryland at the moment. You have the S meter readings of each one of the stations on there, and you can see the waterfall. If you want to listen, look like the signal coming into Alberta.
Is this real time right now?
Yes. The audio quality is not real great because I've got it acoustically coupled from the speakers on my computer to the microphone here, and it works a lot better for me. I have hearing aids, and I stream my audio usually right into my hearing aids. I'm not doing that tonight, but it's really a lot better quality to hear. I apologize for the lack of quality, but I think you get the idea. If you want to change SDRs, like we're not getting anything to speak of from the Westminster out, the one in the blue, you can go up here and deactivate that, and then you could activate one of the other blue ones down here in that group or another group. I'll pick New York down here. Now we're launching an SDR in New York in the blue space. That one's not coming up for some reason. Let me try a different one. Try Massachusetts. There we go. So you can easily change SDRs. This particular scene has over 50 of them to choose from, and you know, this is really good for a lot of different things. You can obviously you can see this puts a whole new take on is the frequency in use, because if you listen from your radio, you may not hear anything, but you can look from 4 other receivers across the continent and get a pretty good idea if it's busy. You can obviously check your antennas if you would transmit on your antenna there and see what your coverage is. You can check that pretty easy. There's, of course, a lot of other uses. This is not intended for contesting or, you know, confirming contacts. I'm not trying to cheat the system, but there's a lot of other use cases for this besides that in ham radio, as you can imagine. So I'm going to conclude the demo here and go back to my presentation. Okay, so why would you want to use hams.live in OBS Studio? Here's some information for you. So the SDR links are organized geographically and by grid square. The SDR options are set automatically, and it syncs frequency, mode, and waterfall on this instantly. OBS has some audio filtering built in. You can enable audio filtering on the SDRs or your own rig audio in different increments of decibels. You can also install and use VST plugins, so you could put an equalizer or some audio enhancement there in your stream. You can manage your rig audio in the SDRs. We showed that in the mixer. You can also do use MIDI encoders and macros. It's very powerful software. The software is open source. It runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's in over 50 languages. You can customize that graphical interface any way you want. You can move the windows around. They're customizable. Of course, OBS is designed to stream audio and video. And so if you want to share your canvas there or whatever online, you can do that. So I'm going to stop the share now and see what questions people might have.
Well, I would certainly think, Robert, would be nice if you know, you were working somebody and you were really having trouble hearing them. You could rack up a couple of receivers, and you know, man, if you can't hear them, then something's wrong.
It's real useful for groups or nets. I'm on an activity group every day on 17 meters, and we use it extensively. The guy that heads up the group is only 70 miles from me, and there's no way I can hear him on 17 meters, but I can hear him on the SDR, and he can hear me. Oh, I should say the system is a subscription system. It is $24 a year for a subscription. There's a trial. If you go to hams.live, you can sign up and use the system 14 days and decide if you want to use it ongoing or not. And the system is really something that I've put a lot of time and money into, and I'm just trying to recover some of those costs. And that's why, I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's a couple dollars a month. And I think that the value will be there for those that are interested. If you have a computer in your shack, it's something that would be of a benefit probably to you.
Robert, this is Webb. I got a question.
Sure.
How does this work? I mean, what are the bandwidth requirements as far as internet connection? I mean, normally I've got great speed on my internet, but there's some situations when I'm remote that I don't have such a great internet connection, like when I'm on a hotspot. How does it work in low bandwidth situations? Thank you.
I got that same question on the previous presentation, and I should have researched it, but I don't know the answer to that exactly, but I don't think the SDR takes up a lot of resources as far as bandwidth. I think if you're running 4 of them, it'd be 4 times that. And the biggest resource is GPU on your computer. So I have a pretty good video card in here, and I have an i5 processor, which is not the fastest, but not the slowest either. And I have no problem running the system. Depends on your computer and your connectivity, of course, but I don't think it's a lot. But a lot depends on, I mean, if you're talking about remote situations or somebody's just, it depends on everyone's circumstances.
Hey, Robert, how many stations are using this right now?
I've just started the system. It's been in beta for a good while. I've had some trouble. I got the thing initially programmed, and I've been trying to get some programming help for JavaScript, and I've had a lot of trouble with programmers, not helping me, for one reason or another. And there's not very many people on the system. There's a few people that have been testing it, but I'm just now getting the website up, and I don't have the payment gateway working yet. I'm going to have that working in a few days, and so the number of paid subscribers is 0 right now, but I've got a number of people that have been testing it for me, and the system is open for trial. A lot of interest.
Robert, how many SDR receivers approximately are out there that your system can connect to?
There's about 540 Kiwis in my system. I also have some web SDRs in there, which work, but the web SDRs don't have continuous coverage across HF. Most of them, they have certain bands that they cover, and it makes it a little bit difficult, especially when you're doing the multiple SDRs, to try to not have that. If it doesn't cover 20 meters, then and you want to use 20 meters, I didn't want that to happen. So predominantly they're Kiwi SDRs in the system, and I don't have all of them in there because some SDRs frankly aren't very good. They don't have good antennas, or they're noisy, or don't work very well, and I didn't want to have that kind of thing in the system if I could help it. So
I'm sorry, a follow-up question, Robert, is What's the highest frequency? Does it stop on 10 meters? It does not cover UHF or VHF on any of them, does it?
I don't think it goes above 30 megahertz.
Okay.
Um, for the most part, I'm talking about the online ones. There's some SDRs that cover VHF and UHF, and if somebody's really interested, I can include those as well. And if they're controllable, they have to be able to be controlled with the URL, you know. And those ones I mentioned are, you can send parameters to them and set the frequency and all that stuff. And as long as that's possible, I could add them to my system.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I don't know if I missed this or not, so I'm sorry if this is redundant, but does this thing, are some DX outside the United States SDRs programmed in here?
Yeah, I've got a scene collection with all 540 of them that have all the continents globally, and there's a lot of SDRs, for example, in Europe. I mean, I know there's way over 100 of them in Germany alone, but yes, you know, Scandinavia, the Middle East, Pacific, I mean, everywhere. I don't have the multiple SDR developed yet for anything but North America, but I'm working on that. It won't take me too long to get scenes put together for some of the other places.
What's the software interface between the actual physical SDR and the web browser that's going into it? I mean, what's on the sending end of the whole operation?
The session between OBS Studio and the SDR looks just like a session between a browser and the SDR. The OBS Studio has embedded web browsers. I think it's the equivalent of a Chrome browser inside OBS. So it's whatever, you know, port 80, use your IP address, go to the address and connect. It's simple.
I guess what I'm trying to get at, I'm using OBS right now to create this image, but I'm wondering what makes these SDRs special. You mentioned a name which I haven't quite caught. Is that a brand name or a particular type of SDR that is required to be able to do this?
The SDRs, the public SDRs, are predominantly Kiwi SDRs, and that's just the SDR out there on the internet. Anybody can use it. It's free and accessible. And I'm trying to hope I'm answering your question. My system is a web system that really kind of provides, you could think of it as like a directory, but it's not really a directory. It's really just helping organize the links and manage the links. It's sort of a supercharged version of the bookmarks in your browser that before the browser puts together what you need in the right fashion before the browser sends it to the SDR.
Yeah, I guess let me explain my question a bit more. But what's the link on the sending end? I mean, is there a physical device, an SDR that goes to an antenna? What's the link between that device and the internet?
The public SDRs are on the internet, and the link between the user and the SDR is just you know, audio over IP, and they send the image. So it's a real-time rendition of the control panel in the receiver. It's in the browser.
But is it a piece of software that those folks use then to make that link, to make it public?
There's the Kiwi SDRs have code that does all that stuff. I mean, it depends on the type of SDR, but it's the hardware, the receiver is got code that allows it to share an antenna and create virtual receivers. That's why it's software defined radio. Virtual receivers. The Kiwis have between either four or eight receivers on a particular hardware, and they just offer that up for whoever wants to use it there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Robert, and these people, let me help understand this a little bit. These people that have these Kiwis, it's just on the internet. They just provide this service.
That's right. It's amazing that there's hundreds of them all over the world and we can use them. It's a great resource. In fact, I would encourage people, I'm going to do it, to contribute to some of the folks putting up those if you use them, because you know that's not free either. You know, it takes time and money to put those out there as well. So they have donate buttons and stuff. You can help them.
I myself, I use the K3FEF SDR receiver down in Pennsylvania a lot. I use it sometimes on 40 meters just to help hear stations that I might be talking to, and that works very well.
Yeah.
Now, would something like that incorporate in here? I don't know what the definition of Kiwi is.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the one in Milford.
I'd have to look. I don't know.
I've got that in my system, and it's one of the better ones, the Pennsylvania one.
It's probably that one.
You know, there's a really good set of them. There's 6 of them in Westminster, Maryland, that are all got different antennas on them, pointed different directions. One's got a big 900-foot horizontal loop on it, and I think the granddaddy in North America is probably the Utah SDRs. The ones in Utah are, you know, there's just a bunch of them, and they're really good. But there's a lot of good ones out there. There really are. More questions?
I just Googled Kiwi SDR, and I get a page of, apparently it's a product of what I would call Seed Studio, which has done a number of other things with Raspberry Pis and Arduinos. And they have a kit, they have a board, and they have an aluminum enclosure that you can buy. But typical of the time right now, everything is out of stock.
Yeah, that guy sells that hardware, and hundreds of people have bought it and deployed them. That's right.
I have several SDRs, but I had never heard of this particular type, or the type that ties into the internet. So that's a little different.
Yeah, and like I said in my presentation, you could just use a regular web browser and access them. It just my system makes it a little bit more manageable. Okay, so if you want more information, you can go to hams.live, and if you'd like to email me, you can email me at admin@hams.live. let me just take a minute here again and go over what it would take to get on the system. You just go register at the website and get a user ID and password, and then you install OBS Studio on your computer, and there's one plugin you're going to need. It's called a WebSockets plugin. You install that to make sure it can communicate with my system, and then you can download what's called a scene collection and do a little configuration of it to make it ready to go, and then you just log in and it works.
Well, I guess there's no more questions. Well, thank you, Robert. So
You're welcome.
I could see a use to the system if it covered VHF and UHF. Boy, that would be nice. You know, we got a repeater out in Never Land, and we get reports that it's broken transmit or something, and we could dial in an SDR somewhere in the area and actually hear the output. Boy, that would be, you know, really nice.
Well, you would think that similar technology could be
Would.
deployed at
It would.
repeaters for people to stream audio from repeaters fairly easily. Clubs could buy it and hook it up, and that would be very useful.
Yeah. Well, we stream audio as well as a lot of other people, but we can never hear, you know, we stream our audio, but we can't hear the output of a repeater in Texas, for instance. You know, we get reports that got bad audio coming out of Houston. Well, if we had an SDR that in Houston that we could listen to the outputs with, that would really be nice as a service aid. I'm just thinking out of the box here. Well, if there's no more questions, Robert, thank you very much again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.